Welcome, everyone, to the Monthly Movie Dispatch, the movie review show from friends you can trust. Every week, we broadcast a review of a new film, talk about some film news, and recommend what to watch. We've been talking, critiquing, and gushing over movies since we were in high school, and we aim to bring you honest conversation on relevant cinema. I am here today on this somewhat special episode. We're doing
Spooky
things
episode.
a goofy episode. I don't know what you just said, Brandon, but
Spooky.
it's a spooky episode and a goofy episode. We've got three here with us today. It's my brother Brandon Bolby.
Hey, how's it going?
Who you can see, and then not pictured is Nick Moffat.
Yeah, yo, what's up?
What's
I'm over
up?
on the audio side of things.
Yeah. Nick kind of last minute decided to jump on with us and hang out for a little bit.
Our horror movie expert.
Well,
Yeah, our horror.
I feel like I kind of had to, represent horror a little bit. I mean, I know you guys, you've watched all these movies, and I'm proud of you for it. But I'm not trying to like diminish what you do. But I watched all 31. I did the horror movie challenge. I was like, I was living, breathing horror like every day.
Yeah,
You were in
and
it.
loving it.
You dove deep. So we're going to do somewhat of a different episode this week. We're going to start out with Nick is going to talk about his horror movie month, and then we're going to do a few short reviews of some horror movies that came out in the month of October before we move on to our featured review of Last Night in Soho, the new Edgar Wright film. But yeah, let's back up a little bit. And Nick, why don't you talk about your horror movie month? You do this every year. How many times have you done this?
Dude, this is my 8th horror movie month. I've been doing this shit for 8 years, and it's honestly become one of my favorite things to do every year. Like I look forward to it. Like I started getting hyped for horror movie month, like over the summer. I was just like, all right, it's coming up, I just get so excited about it.
Yeah. That's Nick, that's 248 horror movies.
Oh,
Nice.
quick math.
Okay.
I did.
There might be some repeats in there. Sometimes
okay,
I rewatch movies. It's not necessarily. I allow rewatches. This year I tried to do mostly new movies, but I definitely had a few rewatches in there. This year was pretty epic for me. I'll be honest. Like I started early. It's not for me. It's not as much about the challenge as much as it is gain like 31 new horror movies in my life. So I extend it. I started like mid-September. Just to kind of like get things going. But it started strong. And it kind of like the whole time I watched a lot of really unique, fun movies, and I don't know if I really had like a down period. You go through waves when you watch 31 movies, and some years I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, you kind of hit a weird patch there, or yeah, these are all pretty good. So I'm just excited to tell you guys about it. This is cool. I wasn't expecting this. I honestly wasn't expecting to get the opportunity to tell you guys about this. So I'm excited. So
walk us through it, Nick.
So the first one I watched was Jennifer's Body. Remember that with Megan Fox?
I watched that this month too.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Dude, I loved it. Shannon loved it too. And oh man, the other thing, I gotta tell you real quick, the other thing is Shannon watched a bunch of horror movies with me. She's like into it now. It's like, oh my goodness, life changer.
It took her
it's
a
like,
bit, right? Yeah.
oh my goodness. Yeah, she used to hate horror movies. Like she used to hate horror movie month. Like me and Sabrina, we'd get like psyched on it. Like we're like watching a lot of horror movies, and Shannon be in like the other room, like, all right, I guess I'll sit by myself over here.
Yeah,
but now she likes it. She's like into it. She watched a bunch she loved Jennifer's Body.
Yeah.
And then the original Candyman from '92. Ingmar Bergman's Hour of the Wolf. It's a classic director is like
fancy.
It's like yeah, that one was incredible. Ganja and Hess, classic black cinema.
Okay.
Slither, James Gunn movie.
Awesome.
You guys seen that one?
I have not.
Long time ago.
All right, so then I started watching. So then, like last year, I did all the Child's Play movies. This year, I did all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started with that. So I started that, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven. Then Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, which was pretty incredible, but like terrible. It was a terrible movie, but like, oh my goodness, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, which I liked like a lot, but it has a bad reputation. But I really enjoyed that one. Freddy is pretty awesome as a character. I enjoyed all these movies, even though like they get really bad. Like Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, pretty bad. Then there's Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. That one to me, that one was very very bad. But then I went to the theater and saw Titan, which we're gonna talk about later. Like, psyched about it. New Nightmare. Then I went back and finished the series New Nightmare, which is when Wes Craven comes back, and that one's great too. And then went and saw Lamb, which is like debatably a horror movie, but Letterboxd listed it as one. And I think there's a sense of dread throughout the whole movie, and then there is kind of a twist that I think there's enough horror elements to count it.
We almost included it in this episode, but it was on the edge. I mean, Shaun saw it too, right?
Yes, I did. And I mean, I agree. Technically, you could probably say it's a horror movie, but it's not that horror. So we went with a different film instead of Lamb.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a drama, but there was a lot of dread in the movie, and then I don't know, but weird movie. Black Sunday, classic Italian movie. I watched a bunch of Italian horror movies this year, and that was pretty awesome. Watched the zombie movie that in some places it's called Zombie, in other places it's listed as Zombie Flesh Eaters. But that was incredible. I loved that one. Then I watched Dario Argento's Deep Red, who's like becoming one of my favorite directors. Like, he's incredible. All of his movies are like beautiful and scary and bloody, and the soundtracks are always like insane. But I try to watch at least one Hammer movie every year. So I watched The Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. Pretty good. David Cronenberg's Rabid. Which was interesting because it was like people were getting rabies, and then like so they were giving out rabies shots, and people like were resisting getting the shots, but then getting fucking Ian. This is from like 1977,
Wow.
Nice.
Another classic, The Innocence, 1961. Have you guys seen that one? Like,
no.
That one's pretty great. Tony Scott's The Hunger vampire movie with David Bowie, which great.
Nice.
Very stylish. Another classic, Peeping Tom, which was one of the original slashers. And then we watched Halloween. Me and Shannon, that was her first time seeing it.
Oh,
the original
wow.
one.
Which Halloween?
Right,
There's
because
three.
there's like
there's literally 3 movies called.
There's literally 3 movies called Halloween. That's insane. Yeah, no, the first one, the original one. We were thinking about, she wanted to watch Halloween Kills, and so but she also wanted to watch the original. So we watched the original, and then I was like, we'll have to watch the second one, and then we can watch Halloween Kills, and then
the third one.
It didn't happen. So
sorry,
but so we watched the original though, and that was great.
Nice.
And then this movie called The Eye, that was by far the worst movie I watched this time, but it was pretty fun. I have a shirt. I got the shirt, The Eye. I have it on a shirt, and so I got the DVD after I got the shirt.
From the worst movie you saw all month.
Yeah, because it was like video store day at Scarecrow, and I like donated enough money to get like a gift bag, and in the gift bag there's just a bunch of random crap, and one of the things inside there was like an extra large The Eye shirt, and it's like this terrible horror movie with Jessica Alba, and then I think I picked up the DVD somewhere, like at like a garage sale or something, and I finally watched it, and it was terrible, but we laughed a lot. It was a good time. Another Dario Argento movie, Phenomena. VHS 94, the new edition of the VHS series that came out this year. Society, which is a body horror movie that was insane. Just loved it. Like, Society was insane. The New York Ripper. I wanted to tell you about this, Brandon, because it's called The New York Ripper.
Uh-huh.
You know, you should see it. It's pretty good.
Make me really
It's
terrified
the
at
same,
night. Okay.
same Italian director as that zombie movie I watched earlier in the year too. Another 2021 movie, A Censor, which was weird as fuck. When I watched the new Paranormal Activity movie, Next of Kin, and then last night at Soho. Last night in Soho. Soho on the left.
And the best horror movie of the month is
what the you didn't say I was gonna do that. No, you didn't say I was gonna do that. I did update my 100 favorite horror movies list with the movies that I saw this month and put on there. So there were like 10, honestly. Like there were I think there were 10 movies off that list that
I watched a fucking lot of good ones. 1 and 3 were like really great, if not more.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Sounds like a good month.
Nice.
It was, dude. It was a really good time, So I know that was super indulgent, just like me telling you about all these movies, but dude, I honestly recommend almost all of them. They were all super interesting in their own way, but
nice. Maybe we'll throw the link in the description for
sure
for your list.
Well, cool. All right. Thanks for giving me the time to spill that on you.
That is pretty awesome, Nick. That always sounds super fun. So I guess let's jump into our review section. I think we're going to do some light, no spoiler reviews for our first 3 movies, and then the featured is going to be a full review with a spoiler section. So hopefully for this first 3 movies, don't worry about spoilers. We'll do our best to not give any spoilers. So let's jump into our first one, which is the new film called Antlers. This movie, I believe, was meant to come out, this is, again, a reoccurring thing that happens, that's been happening this last couple months. Quarantine movie. It got pushed several times and finally came out this month. It is directed by Scott Cooper. The plot description is in an isolated Oregon town, a middle school teacher and her sheriff brother become embroiled with her enigmatic student, whose dark secrets lead to terrifying encounters with a legendary ancestral creature who came before them. This movie is starring Kerry Russell, Jesse Plemons, and Jeremy T. Thomas, who is a little, I believe, maybe 8 or 10-year-old boy in this movie, who is really, really good. He gives an awesome performance as a very troubled child. So I saw this movie in theaters. It's only available in theaters right now.
This is the movie that they advertise a lot, like Guillermo del Toro produced it.
Yes,
right?
That is true.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe he did produce this movie. So yeah, this is a pretty serious movie. It's pretty dark. It deals a lot with trauma and people dealing with their pasts. Especially childhood trauma. The kind of central story is that this is in the trailer, but this kid is kind of, he has a monster that he is kind of hiding and keeping in his closet that is really, really quite terrifying. And so a lot of this movie is this little kid alone dealing with this monster that he has to feed, and he has to keep locked up in this closet. And so he tries to fall asleep at night, every night outside the door of this room. And so it's and that aspect of this movie was really unique and really interesting. The kid plays it really well. Jeremy T. Thomas is really fantastic, really well cast, and there's quite a bit of really legitimately terrifying and super creepy moments that come out of this kind of his interactions with this monster. And I'm not gonna. There's kind of a lot more to it than it's just like a monster, and there's kind of some really fun reveals and some really creepy reveals as to what is actually going on there. There's some really creative, very spooky stuff that comes out of that. Unfortunately, though, I think the rest of the movie is a little doesn't have the direction that part of the plot has. It doesn't have. It's not as coherent. It's a little bit meandery. It doesn't really have kind of a central idea that it's working with. And unfortunately, a lot of the movie is taken up by other people's stories and things that they're dealing with. And I think that does kind of detract quite a bit from the movie. Ultimately, it doesn't really have anything interesting to say about trauma or anything like that. So I think by the end I was a little bit on the fence for this movie, but it really does have some super creepy moments. It does have like a pretty somewhat satisfying final scene to the movie. Final scene or two, but so I guess I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. That is,
heard that this movie had like a lot of not a lot of, but it was based on Native American folklore or mythology.
That is true. I don't know how well the movie dealt with that kind of stuff. I'm curious to know what other people are saying about that. It does kind of just ultimately that side of it is very much in the background and doesn't really play much of a role in kind of the themes or the ideas of the movie. That was just kind of thrown in there as an explanation for what the monster is, I guess. So yeah, again, that part of it wasn't very satisfying or particularly interesting to me, unfortunately. But yeah, I do somewhat recommend the movie. There is a lot of really good scares to it that you can get out of this fairly, quick little horror film. So yeah, that's Antlers. So let's see. Neither of you guys saw this movie, so
nope.
Do you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it. It's on my radar, but I don't have a lot of time, and there were a lot of other movies that are coming around at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
But if it had come out a different week, I honestly would have maybe gone. I've heard a lot of interesting things about it. I don't know. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. Like some people, I've heard some pretty good things about this movie. That's like pretty surprising and stuff. But yeah, you didn't like it that much, though.
I liked it enough. I appreciated it enough. I'm a little bit on the fence. I definitely wouldn't recommend it to everyone, but I do think that
as like a horror guy, do you think I would like it?
I think you would enjoy the quite creative and pretty spooky.
That's good that the horror aspects were the best
they definitely
parts.
were. Yeah.
The hardest parts were the best parts. So.
Yeah, I mean, the Native American stuff, it sounded pretty interesting to me too. Like I was like, oh, you don't really get that a lot, that sort of side of, history and movies and stuff. I was kind of like,
I don't really want to get into it too much, but it was like,
totally.
All the main characters are white people, and there's like, one Native American guy who comes in for the scene where he talks about
I really have no idea.
Yeah. So
I really have no idea. I haven't seen the movie. I just I didn't know if it was a positive or negative, I guess.
I definitely wish it handled that stuff in a more interesting way, but I just kind of don't think it did. But anyways, I guess good on the movie for even delving into that type of stuff. Making an attempt. maybe. I don't know.
Totally.
But yeah, why don't we jump into our next little review? So I'm the only one that saw that movie, Antlers. And Brandon is the only one that saw Halloween Kills.
I know. I'm kind of surprised here for sure.
Brandon, what did you think of
it
Halloween
was
Kills?
I told you guys on my earlier, like I meant to, it just didn't happen.
You're streaming on Peacock, so it's pretty easy rental and easy stream. Hour and 40 minutes, not too bad. But plot description for Halloween Kills, which is directed by David Gordon Green. The nightmare isn't over as unstoppable killer Michael Myers escapes from Lordy's trap to continue his blood ritual. Taking matters into their own hands, the Strode women gather other survivors to hunt down Michael and end the reign of terror once and for all. This movie stars yet again Jamie Lee Curtis and Jamie Jode Courtney, Kyle Richards, and Judy Greer. And again, you can see it streaming on Peacock or go to theaters and check it out. This, unlike maybe Derek, who gave the past installment 5 stars, I was just more okay on the kind of big comeback 2018's Halloween. This movie takes place directly after that movie. And while I'm sure you're fine if you don't see both back to back, but it's literally the same night as the previous film. So this is very much a direct sequel.
Isn't that the case with the original Halloween and Halloween 2? The original Halloween and Halloween 2?
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's mirroring that. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So this is literally the next moments is where this movie picks up and continues forward. But it does give you enough information where you can see them pretty independently. I think I'm a pretty mixed bag. Some of the stuff I liked the most about this movie is the body horror, the gore, how much actual death and killing is in this movie. I mean, it's a classic, it's a remake of a classic slasher movie, and it does not underdo the amount of slashing going on in this all over the movie. There is of deaths through this film, and I was actually pretty surprised to see that. When you think Halloween franchise, you imagine Michael Myers stalking just a few people in a house. This was him murdering an entire village over the course of the movie. And it's just it's kind of a cool angle to base a Halloween slasher film on. So you get a lot of thrills, you get a lot of deaths, and you get a lot of gore. So it very much fulfills that. I will say, on the other hand, maybe because of this, it does lose its horrorness a bit and its scariness. And it's really just a lot of blood without as much tension and buildup because it goes through the cycle so many times and does it much quicker in many more individual scenes.
What the fuck?
Yeah, with that, I think the plot is it's pretty basic. I mean, you're not going to get too much out of a Halloween movie. There's a lot of plot machinations that are
Brandon.
Yeah.
I just hard disconnected. The whole thing crashed. The live stream stopped.
How long ago?
Just in the last 15 seconds. Nick, are you there?
Yeah,
Nick's here.
That was very strange. So shit, what do I do? I don't know if I'm still, right? I should still be recording this. Maybe we just keep going and
is the file on your computer?
It should still be, yeah.
Can you just check it and tell me what the last thing that you said?
Can I do that? Oh no, what the fuck? My internet is so fucked right now. What is happening?
Down the YouTube one and then just edit the video real quick.
Yeah,
and then
just upload the whole thing.
Then just upload it. But it wouldn't take long. Just
okay, hang on. I don't think I can.
If it's just recording this whole time. Did your internet go down? Is that what you said? Or
yeah, like it, my internet just like hard crashed.
It's a remake of a classic slasher movie.
Winds. The windy out there in Greenwood.
Well, did your OBS stop, or is that still going?
No, it's still recording.
Scenes, so we could have kept going.
I mean,
that's what he's checking right now.
Yeah. Okay. I guess
it's still fine to stop. Like, yeah, I mean, it's fine to stop because we need to figure out where what's going on.
So hang on, I'm finding out where Brandon left off.
Yeah, double check that you're still recording, and then
I am currently recording.
Okay, great.
Underdue
and
slashing going on at times.
I don't know, Brandon. What were you saying?
You said Brandon. Hang on, Brandon said they didn't underdo the slashing that went on. There was plenty of slashing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd already made my point.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
So
yeah, it honestly sounded like you were about to like
change topics anyways. Okay.
Well, no, you were like, yeah, you had made your point. It sounded like you were about to change and say something else. Like, I don't know.
Here we go. Ready?
Do you remember where you were at?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to keep going.
Keep it going.
So, I think the plot is kind of simple, straightforward. It gets into just with the entire town against Michael Myers, some plot machinations that are a bit silly and cheesy and don't really work anymore on a scary level. Believability is also a hard thing to do when you have like a whole village going up against one man who like doesn't even ever run. He just kind of like slowly walks around. And it gets pretty extreme towards the end, the believability-ness, which is fine for like a style, like a fun horror movie. But if like you actually want me to feel fear and terror, it kind of subtracts from that in a lot of ways. So I think the overall idea was kind of cool with the amount of gore they actually stuffed into this film, but not everything totally works on a horror level. So that's my review for Halloween Kills, and we can bounce over to the next one.
Yeah. All right.
I guess that'd be me. I guess I'm going to talk about this movie I mentioned earlier, Titan. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah. Well, let's first, Brandon. How do you pronounce it?
Titan.
Or Nick, how do you pronounce it?
I said Titan.
I used to say Titany.
Titany. Yeah, it's French. That kind of makes.
Well, then I thought it's French, so I started saying Titan.
Titan.
But anyways, I just think it's kind of funny that we all pronounce it.
Yeah, we all don't know. I know it's
embarrassing. Thanks for bringing it up.
It's embarrassing. We need to figure that out. No. Yeah, we need to figure that out. But this movie is something else. I really don't know what to say about it plot wise, but
so that's kind of a joke. If you're looking at the show notes, Nick, I didn't put any plot description in the show notes because there's no plot description that makes any sort of sense for this movie that I was able to find.
I'm literally reading Letterboxd review right now for the first time, and you're right. Like it doesn't say anything about the movie. Can I just read it real quick, just for fun? And then I have things to say about this movie that have nothing to do with the plot. And I can sell this movie, but
all right.
But this the Letterboxd plot description says, following a series of unexplained crimes, a former firefighter is reunited with his son who has been missing for 10 years. And I guess that's part of the plot.
I'm looking at the IMDb.
Part of the plot.
I'm looking at the IMDb plot description, and it's the same, except for then it just defines what titanium is. Like it just has a definition for titanium, which has very little to do with the movie.
So that's how you say the title. It's Titan for sure. Then, if it's short for titanium.
Well, it's also French, so
I
don't know how they pronounce titanium. And Titan might just be the full word instead. Anyways.
Okay, so did you guys see this movie real quick?
I did see this movie.
I did not.
Brandon, what are you doing?
I don't know.
What are you
What am I
doing,
up
man?
to?
This is literally like your kind of movie, man.
I'm busy seeing
This
Halloween Kills, apparently.
Yeah, I know. Like, dude, this movie was something else. So it's the second film by director Julia Decantor, and she is French. Her other movie is another favorite among the podcast. Shaun, I don't think you've seen it, but I know Brandon's a big fan. I'm a big fan. Derek's a big fan. Raw, which was a 2016 horror movie. It's a beautiful movie, a beautiful coming of age story, but she's coming of age being a cannibal, and it's really amazing. But the body horror that she pulls off in Raw, like the visceral energy of Raw, is so amazing and intense and stylized, and it operates on a few different levels, but also it's a very visceral body horror movie. That was Raw from a few years ago. And I feel like Titan is like in a lot of ways the same kind of. It's like beautiful, like it's beautifully shot. It's an amazing looking movie, and there are some like weird. There's a lot of weird like body horror and interesting like I don't know just things that are happening. And it's working on a few different levels, and there's a lot of different ways of dissecting this movie, and it won at the Cannes Film Festival this year. Like it won their top prize was at the Palme d'Or.
Big deal, very especially for a movie this I guess this stylized and twisted.
Yeah. So it's
what you
really
guys think?
Well, I loved it. I thought it was pretty. I mean, it was pretty intense, pretty insane. Like there were parts where I like literally I was like covering my eyes, like, and I a lot of horror people who like horror movies, there's like a line that you then you usually step over the line, personal boundaries and stuff, and that was like a personal boundary a little bit for me. Like I was literally like I was having a hard time looking at it, and I definitely had my eyes closed at a certain part. Very like I had a visceral reaction to a lot of the movie, but also like psychologically there were a few different, like I would put this in like a psychological horror movie just as much as body horror, because it really was working on a few different weird levels, and I don't know, it's hard to really like talk about without like saying anything about the plot, because I feel like Shaun, back me up on this. Like the basic element of the movie is kind of a big spoiler. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I would agree, because I was even just thinking like you actually described the movie as the way that you described the movie to me initially, like before I had seen it, is just like so bizarre. But yeah, it's kind of a bit of a twist, or not a twist, but it's like it's like a very shocking thing that happens kind of early on in the movie, that takes the movie in a very bizarre direction.
So in real life, did I tell you what the like the plot, like the basic premise of the movie is? Did I mention that to you?
Yes.
Okay, so I kind of spoiled it for you in real life,
but I had completely forgotten about it.
There's a good handful of movies where just not even knowing anything is the best way to walk in a theater, and it sounds like this is one of them.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it is like I don't know. Talking about it in person with someone, I might be more inclined to like just say what it is, because it's like it makes for conversation, and it might actually get people to see the movie on some level, like to get it on people's radar. But because we're like on a podcast, I'm having a hard time like just like saying that, just because I feel like it's more, I don't know. It's more formal or something.
I agree. It's more formal, and there's a broader audience. Like, if you are someone who has no interest in this movie, like maybe explaining what it's about might pique your interest and get you to go see it. But if you are someone who is already interested in it, and might go see it, then just go see it without hearing anything about it.
Brandon, what do you think? Do you want us to tell you what the movie
No,
is?
definitely not. I mean, yes, just tell me what you like. I still don't even know what Shaun thought of the movie at all.
Yeah, I mostly agree with Nick. I'm generally, I don't really go for these types of movies, I guess, just like, totally out there. I can't really explain what I saw type of movie. But I will also say, like, maybe just having a conversation about this movie afterwards would have really helped. Because there's a lot to take in, and there's a lot of ideas that are being explored. And I certainly have some ideas about what I thought the movie was about. And, I think it's exploring some interesting themes, but I have no idea if anyone else thought that those were even the themes about the, I don't know if, like, the way I saw the movie is how anyone else would see the movie. It's that bizarre of a movie.
Yeah, I can see. I hear you, man. Like, we should have talked after this movie. That probably would have helped.
Yeah,
I literally listened to 3 different podcasts about it.
Yeah,
like,
just to help you parse.
Well, there was a what I've been doing a lot through Horror Movie Month just for fun. I've been just searching for in the podcast feed, like, just a random movie I saw, thinking like there's probably a horror podcast out there that covered this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this podcast where it's these 2 women, and they basically just recap horror movies, and they get reactions to each other on the plot of horror movies. And they did this one. They did Titan. And so, literally, I watched the movie, and then on the drive home, I listened to 2 people recap the movie. And I was like, okay, so all of this stuff actually happened,
Yeah.
It's, that podcast is called Too Scary Didn't Watch, just to shout it out to them.
Huh.
But, I literally listened to 3 podcasts, though, about it, because it's very strange, and I wanted to have pretend conversations with people about it.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like we haven't really talked about what we really thought about the movie, though. We've just said it's weird over and over, and I don't know if there's much more I could say about it without really digging into it. It's totally bizarre, but interesting, and it goes in odd directions. One thing that I read or heard someone say is that the first half of the movie maybe is kind of like Halloween from Michael Myers' perspective, in some ways. But yeah, I don't know if that really applies. Does that ring true to you at all, Nick?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Shaun. I'm sorry. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. But,
well,
again,
just about, it's serial killer, someone who's just murdering a bunch of people, but it's from their perspective. But anyways, yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, yeah, sure. No, it's a yeah. I mean, I don't know. We could have a whole episode on this with spoilers. I'd like to it's hard to talk this movie, especially without saying any spoilers. So I don't really want to, but I loved it. I'm into weird art movies, and this was definitely one of those. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
talk about it more later.
We'll have to have a chat about it later, Nick.
All right.
Maybe once Brandon sees it. But yeah, I think we should move on.
I'm gonna buy it on Blu-ray, and then when Brandon visits, we'll have a screening for it. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Movie night.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, let's jump into our featured review. Last Night in Soho. We have been anticipating this movie. At least I have. I think Brandon has too, and Nick. We've been anticipating this movie for a while. It's
what?
Yeah. From one of our favorite directors, Edgar Wright. Most people know him from Shaun of the Dead and Scott Pilgrim and a bunch of other really, really fantastic movies. But the plot description of this one is an aspiring fashion designer is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s, where she encounters a dazzling wannabe singer. but the glamour is not all it appears to be, and the dreams of the past start to crack and splinter into something darker. This movie stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Thompson McKenzie, and Matt Smith. I believe this movie is exclusively in theaters. Yes, I'm pretty sure it's exclusively in theaters right now. It isn't doing super well at the box office from what I hear, but hopefully people can get in there and see it before it leaves. So it just came out this last weekend. But yeah, so maybe let's start with Brandon. What did you think of this new movie?
All right, guys. I think this is Edgar Wright's first and only flub in his career, and it pains me to say that. This is one of my favorite directors of all time, and I've loved everything he has made. I think he shows obviously a lot of skill and fun and creativity, and he fell in love with London and Soho in the 1960s and how to visually represent the crossing of two worlds in this film. But I think it really gets lost and bogged down in the second half of this film, and the horror and scary and thriller elements of this movie do not come together in a lot of different ways. And I like, while I was watching it, it made me feel uncomfortable. Just knowing how much he was putting into it and how much it wasn't working for me on different levels. That's my big take from this movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we're gonna go to a polar opposite opinion here.
Ooh,
but,
boy.
Nick
Ooh,
Moffat,
boy.
what did you think of this movie?
Well, I mean, I'm basically on the opposite end of the fence, like 100%. I love this movie. I pretty much loved it. I thought it was pretty great. Like, I don't know. Like, it was Edgar Wright's first movie that wasn't a comedy at all. It felt like he was just trying to make a horror movie, and he still had like a lot of really interesting like concepts and like style that he was playing with. He just wasn't winking at the audience with it. And he's such a stylized director, and the soundtrack was great, of course. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was a great movie. And I did feel like it like slowed down in the there. I mentioned this to Shaun yesterday. Like I did think it like slowed down to a halt at some point. Like the third act like was pretty slow. But then I thought it all came together in the end. Like I really liked the way it came together. I just thought it was like weird and pretty cool. Yeah. So basically the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna kind of come down somewhere in the middle. I would
Ooh.
probably maybe I'm a little closer to Nick, but yeah, I loved so much of this movie. Like I was absolutely in love with this movie for so much of it. Like I do agree the third act kind of slows down and it kind of becomes a little repetitive and redundant at times. And a lot of it really kind of doesn't work. And a lot of the storylines and plot threads and little and some of the side characters don't really seem to have any relevance in the end of the movie. But yeah, I was just so enamored with the style and the visual, his ability to communicate things visually and practically, yeah, I thought it had a really, really fun premise, and I thought it was genuinely creepy and kind of scary in many moments of the film.
Certainly thrilling, with the there are a lot of thrilling elements with the movie, with all the ghosts and the psychology behind it. Like, I don't know, I'm a sucker for, ghost movies where they're also psychological movies where you don't know if they're going crazy or if she's really like seeing ghosts or what's going on. Is she a medium? What's happening? And the way that I don't know how much you want to get into it before spoilers, but like I don't know, the kind of basic premise is like she's like seeing a person from the 60s. She's like in modern
almost
times, and she's
like half living in the body of this woman from the 60s.
Yeah. She's like getting transported there, kind of.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, when she's having that experience, especially the first few times she does it, and she's looking in the mirror, and it's like that cool reflection, and just I don't know, the style it was so cool. Like I got so swept up in it, and there's still like I don't know, I feel like it was a good horror movie because even in those really cool sweeping moments, there was like still like a sense of like there's probably gonna be something that goes wrong, and then when it does, it's like it's pretty wild, and it's different than how you would expect it to be. Like it's not just like stab blood. It's like it's like deep rooted and like horrifying on a different level, so
yeah,
I don't know.
I was pretty into like her journey just from the start, like as a character, like in small town, like fashion designer, getting accepted into like London from a family that has been fashion designers. I don't know, just like that dream, her ambitions, her learning to live with her classmates, and with like these bullies, and I was actually like pretty on board for a good chunk of the movie as well. I did like that whole like coming of age journey that this movie had going for it for a bit. That was one thing I liked as well.
I totally agree. I really like the idea that someone, making the premise of this movie about someone who, kind of romanticizes the past and kind of idolizes the fashion of an era, and she has like kind of this dreamy view of the 1960s London, and I love the idea that she is then forced to struggle with that perspective and forced to see the reality of that was the 1960s, and it's not all rosy. And I loved how our main character is viewing the story of, kind of this past story is revealing itself to our main character as we are experiencing it. I thought that was a really creative way to tell a story, and having those two stories like being told in parallel to each other was super creative. It allowed for some really awesome visual storytelling elements. Like there's so like the scene when she first enters the 1960s and she's like walking down the street, and then she goes into the club, and then all the mirror stuff. And I loved how it was like
the dancing.
Yeah, the dancing
and the switching between them.
I loved how he visually communicates like she's in Anya Taylor-Joy's body, but also she's kind of separate from her body in a lot of ways. In the way he like kind of shifts between those two things, and like she's like existing in the mirror, and then she's like just in Anya Taylor-Joy's body, and then she's like just sitting in the room sometimes. I loved how like all those, like he was able to play with all those different ways of showing that story really well. And yeah, just I like a lot of the ideas. I liked the struggle of kind of coming to terms with that reality, and how someone who has her passion for what she wants to do can get torn down and kind of put through the ringer in a different era. But yeah, so I thought there were a lot of really great and interesting ideas being played with, and maybe we can does anyone have anything else to say before we jump into spoilers? I think most of the problems that I have, all of the problems that I have are in the later part of the movie, so I don't really want to get too into them. Nick, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah. No, not really. I mean, yeah. No, I don't think I have any other fun. No. I don't think I'm gonna stick around for the spoiler section, guys. I think I'm gonna hop out. But
Okay.
why don't you guys get into it and get into the weeds of this movie? But I think give it a chance. That's how I feel about it. It's different from Edgar Wright's other movies, but
definitely.
Anyway.
All right.
Thanks for
joining, Nick.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
So yeah.
Spoilers.
Brandon didn't like it so much. Nick really, really liked it a lot, and I was kind of somewhere in the middle, but definitely would say it's worth seeing for sure. But yeah, let's jump into the spoiler section, and here we go. Spoilers. So, Brandon, was there a point or a thing that happened that kind of turned the movie for you? Or?
Yeah. I think it's one of the 1960s scene when she goes in and starts seeing the darker side of the 60s when I guess when the horror actually starts. I think it's the first scene when they kind of like open the brothel or it's like a cabaret show, but with a seedier backside to it. Starts going. I think the movie kind of takes an awkward turn for the worst at that point. Once a lot of the horror elements are introduced, it gets very repetitive through especially the last 30 minutes, to the point where you're seeing almost the exact same thing, like scene after scene. And I do think I kind of pinpoint one of my biggest gripes is what they do with Anna Taylor-Joy's character. I feel like her character just really ends and is given almost nothing to do for a good chunk of the second half of the movie. And it's kind of just really disappointing to see how nothing really comes together on her side in the 60s.
That is true, because once it's revealed that she was murdered. We're in spoilers now, so once it's revealed that she was murdered, that is the end of her story, and that happens kind of in the early in the third act or somewhere in there, and there is quite a bit of movie left where she isn't even hardly a character.
And it's maybe too bad they didn't give her something to plant or something to affect the future, or some underlying strategy underneath her. I don't know. She just is. She's just barely existing for the second half.
Yeah,
obviously because shit's going down with her. That's horrible. But we don't really get to see how she feels too much about it. Her reaction to it, her trying to deal with it. It's just showing what's happening to her, and they don't give her really anything to do with it.
I think the movie does do a decent job, maybe not a perfect job, but a decent job of showing how it's becoming out of control for her, and how her life, it really is being taken over slowly but surely by the men that she is relying on that anyone would have to rely on to make it in the entertainment industry. She keeps making sacrifices. She keeps making she keeps doing things just to hope that she will then move on to the next level and be able to do what she wants to do. But at every turn, her agency is being taken away from her. And I think what's interesting about that is perhaps less of what's happening with her character, and almost more of how Mackenzie, or what's her name, Thomasin Mackenzie's character is viewing it. I think that is where the movie stays interesting for me.
I do want to, before we move away from Mount Taylor Joy, like, and I don't really know exactly how I feel about it, but thinking back on even because of what happens in the second half of her, thinking back on the first half, it's like her character shows up out of nowhere as almost like fictionally this perfect person. She walks in this club and is like, who do I need to talk to fuck my way to the top? And to get exactly
she didn't say that, but
to get exactly what I want. And I mean, she dove in there like trying to play the system or play the game. Like that's kind of how I saw her character at the start.
Yeah, no, I have a different take, but yeah.
Okay. And then, and just like, now what can you get me? Like, what can you give me? And then it started getting like over her head and out of control. And I guess like looking back, because the second half gave me also so little, looking back at the first half, I was like, oh, they didn't actually go anywhere with that character trait that I was seeing at the start. Anyways, it was confusing.
I guess for me, that's not how I saw that opening scene. She certainly walked in there with confidence and was like, who do I have to talk to get what I want? And I'm going to be a star, and who here is going to help me become a star. I thought the way I legitimately just saw that scene is that guy that she was talking to was very charming and very friendly to her, and certainly was helping her, but I thought that her affection towards him was genuine, and she thought his affection towards her was genuine. But then, slowly it's revealed to her that he really doesn't care about her, and that he is using her and has no interest in necessarily making her a star, but in using her for her body in basically every way that he can. And that's how I saw that aspect. And then from then on, it's about, her slowly, completely losing control over her life, through compromises that she makes, and ending up where she does, basically as a prostitute. But I do agree that she becomes less of a non-character later on in the movie, as that, especially once that happens to her.
That switch happens. Yeah.
Once that switch happens. And she isn't really revisited until the end of the movie, where there's the twist that she is still alive, and she had murdered a bunch of people, so it does come back to her ultimately in the end. But I do want to revisit something you said, that a lot of the horror elements become very repetitive, and that is something I completely disagree with. That's where the movie really started, actually started losing me, is where, she's basically just running around the city, seeing the same ghosts over and over. And every time she turns down a new street, the ghosts jump out, and she goes, and then she turns and keeps running, and then she turns
and then she goes home, and the ghosts
go,
and
then she's like,
and then she goes to the library, and the ghosts are like, I actually started feeling bad for her. I was like, oh no, they're making her like make this face again. Like she's being given so little, and she's just having to scream over and over and over again.
Yeah, it definitely relied on that too hard. It relied too much on that one jump scare. And I do think a bunch of the characters that are set up early on in the movie have no payoff, and ultimately are not revisited. They're like, especially for example, the guy that
Yeah,
thinks
he's like
the guy that keeps appearing and is like super creepy, and she ultimately thinks killed Anya Taylor-Joy's character. But then it's revealed that he was a cop and he was trying to help prostitutes,
but
back
also
in the 60s.
kind of not.
But yeah, but also kind
Like
of
he was
not.
still kind of a bad cop,
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah. Definitely like still a creepy dude and like has a reputation of but I don't know exactly how that plays out, because actually now
Because it
that I
doesn't
think
matter.
about it, maybe like his reputation for sleeping around or flirting with pretty girls is more him just like going up and talking to and trying to help, young girls who are being taken advantage of, possibly, trying to help prostitutes, as a cop. And that's where he got the reputation. Maybe that's where he was going with it, but still his character doesn't really, ultimately goes nowhere, and he's just kind of offed at some point. And
Yeah, it's like it's a big reveal, but it like
Yeah.
actually it doesn't feel shocking
yeah,
or
and
important at all.
ultimately means nothing.
Oh, he's that guy that we just got a flashback of in that one scene for
Yeah.
like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
Okay.
And then like another one is the like bully friend, who, does nothing, goes nowhere.
Her purpose is, to make our lead feel isolated. I was
Yeah.
kind of into the movie for a bit there,
Mhm.
and her mom's trying to check in on her, make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
But the bully's pretty extreme for the first half of the movie, and in the second half of the movie, it's pretty much dropped. And the last two things that happen is our main character puts a pair of scissors to her forehead
that's
to
right.
try to kill her,
Oh,
and
like,
then the following
legitimately
scene
tries to kill her and like is swinging at her, but luckily her
the guy
kind of
saves her
boyfriend
life.
saves her life, which even
Apparently
that is
she's
never
not suspended.
never come back to.
Actually, you're right. She didn't even stop herself. Someone else
Yeah.
had to stop
Yeah.
her. And then that whole problem's never addressed. But then also we see the bully again at the end. They kind of give each other a nod,
Yeah.
like as if they understand each other.
But like,
now.
but the scissor thing was the last time they saw each other in the movie. So like, why is she now? Why are they okay with each other? I don't. That wasn't. That story thread never came to a conclusion or anything like that. In fact, why wouldn't she hate? Why wouldn't they hate each other? Especially after she tried to kill her. Another one is another maybe problem that I have with it is the love interest, the male love interest character. He kind of felt a little over the top, over the top.
Just it was like a very forced writing. Like we're gonna have this extremely shy girl, and then the nicest guy of all time.
Yeah, who just
ask her 15 times if he can just kind of hang out with her.
Yeah, and are you okay? Like, and I do have to like take a step back. Maybe Edgar Wright was kind of trying to do a bit of a gender swap with the very cliche and very common female character who is way over the top supportive of the male character in many movies where that is the case, just who never questions or is just there to be supportive. So maybe that's what he was trying to do with that character, and he was really trying to go over the top with him. So that may have been intentional, kind of a benefit of the doubt thing that I'm giving him kind of the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, it was definitely pretty awkward in a lot of scenes and in most of their scenes that they shared together. And especially towards the end, it just becomes wholly unbelievable that he would remain so over the top supportive and
with this person
who
like he had to stop to kill somebody.
Who he like doesn't know, who he hardly knows. Like they've spent almost no time together throughout the movie.
Just a horny guy.
And especially like the scene where, oh my God, like there was one scene, the scene where they're, she takes him back up to her room and they're about to have sex. And then she just like starts screaming. There was like, in my mind, like for, you know, the whole scenario of, you know, a black man in a room with a white girl who just starts screaming, like they're alone in that room, and like, I don't know.
And then
just
they're caught, and then the grandma comes, or the homeowner comes in. He shatters the mirror.
Yeah.
Like everyone is like shouting at him.
How can, you know, and then for him to just like come back and be like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, he was actually just like, "I hope you're okay."
Yeah. It's like, I hope you're okay.
No, I hope you're okay, dude. Like that was not cool.
Yeah,
the situation you just got put in.
You know, it is understanding. Obviously, she was going. You know, it's not like I blame her. Like she's at fault for that. She's obviously going through some pretty fucking traumatic shit in that scene, witnessing having these hallucinogenic visions of a murder, whatever. But anyways, it was definitely a little much. I do, however, want to bring it back to...
You should bring it back.
I do still think... I thought that a lot of the third act was pretty lacking and dissatisfying and repetitive, but I do think the ending was interesting. I liked the idea of, you know, that the main character, even though it was perhaps a little bit of a cheesy twist and a little bit of a foreseeable twist that she was still alive and she's the old lady. I certainly had thought of that before we got to that point in the movie.
Yeah, it wasn't too shocking, right?
But I do like the idea of like making her a murderer and someone who murdered all these people, but then not taking the route of she's just the villain now, and she is, you know, she tried
to kill the two characters.
Yes, true. But ultimately, I think still looking back at her and with sadness and looking back at her and understanding what she went through, that made her, you know, do the things that she did. Obviously, those men did not deserve to be murdered for what they were doing, or maybe some of them did, but I think maybe mostly they didn't. But
at least
still,
from what we saw, just the main guy.
Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, we're all pro prostitution here. We're just not pro human trafficking.
Yes. And but still looking at her, you know, with maybe understanding and with some pity, and you know, that did kind of bring it back for me, because what happened to her was really sad and really tragic, and so I guess that's my thoughts on the movie.
Okay.
Really
good
strong
ending there.
First half, and then what do you think? Or do you have
no, I'm not going to add on to that. I'm glad you brought it back. You know, we said a bunch of things, and yeah, it's all good.
All right, well, let's end it there. That is Last Night in Soho. It is still in theaters. Go check it out. What do we have coming up next week? We are probably going to be talking about the movie The French Dispatch. Me and Brandon. Because that's what it says in the show notes. Maybe we'll do The Eternals. The Eternals is coming out next weekend. I'm still a little on the fence. But
let's do The French Dispatch.
All right, let's do The French Dispatch. Let's do it. Next week, The French Dispatch with Shaun and Brandon. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. And thanks for sticking around through this longer episode. See you later.
See ya.